Lack of long-term strategic leadership is partly to blame for mining job losses in the country. This is according to the National African Federated Chamber of Commerce. Nafcoc made an oral evidence and a written submission to the Minerals and Petroleum Board. This as at a hearing convened to investigate job losses in mining. ANN7's Lerato Motsa has more.
Whilst South Africa's mining sector has bled 47,000 jobs in 3 years, Nafcoc says several contradictory factors are in play. It strongly believes that there is a need for a careful look at why some mining houses are closing while others are doing well.
Possibly all the actors seem to have been much more focused on really short-term issues. And what I'm saying, all the stakeholders, I'm really talking both in terms of the mining houses, and I'm talking in terms of the labor side and the employee organization. So we were saying is that the only way that one can be able to stem that is now to say, look, how do we reshape this sector for a long term.
The Federated Chamber of Commerce also says whilst the mounting job losses in mining may be attributed partly to unfavorable commodity prices, investors and other stakeholders have focused on the lack of long-term strategic leadership.
Clearly, there has also been, in our view, very little, discussion. There's still a distance, for instance, between the stakeholders in the mining sector and, for instance, policy making in the government with regards to what we believe are really key policy matters like beneficiation. Very little has been done in that direction.
With a trade union Solidarity saying the timing of the implementation of the mining charter is bad, Nafcoc sees the charter as an instrument to transform the mining sector. It's calling for a more holistic approach that would see mineral beneficiation and other value-adding downstream processing accelerated.
We are saying that to an extent that already certain areas have been affected or certain workers have been affected, like for instance some of those mining towns that have tended to be ghost towns. There must be effort to actually ensure that some kind of an improvement is made to revive those areas, and such that where that has actually happened, it's actually not made worse. The livelihood of those communities are actually kind of perfect. So those are the basically two key things that we are putting across.
Calling for transformation plans that must address the entire mining value chain with a specific bias towards junior miners, Nafcoc recommends for support of the mining charter and continuous maintenance of black economic empowerment. Lerato Motsa, ANN7.
And more bad news for the mining sector. Mining has recorded a drop in production. Statistics South Africa's data released today shows a decline in production to 4.4% in May. The decline is attributed to a negative 7.7% in April, and the main contributors to the decline were iron ore at 26.4% and manganese ore at minus 25.4%. Meanwhile, seasonally adjusted mining production increased by 2.5% in May, following a month-on-month changes of 2.2% rather in April and 2.1% in March. Meanwhile, mineral sales also recorded a decrease by 3.5% year-on-year in April, with platinum group metals being the largest contributors at minus 30.9%. And joining us in studio is National African Federated Commerce, Chamber of Commerce President, and that is Lawrence Mavundla. Thanks so much, Mr. Mavundla, for your time. Just the picture that is being painted now is very gloomy, and that there isn't a delicate balance that can be struck in terms of preserving jobs and also ensuring that the industry remains profitable. But at the heart of it all, you were saying that strategic leadership is a cause of what is going on in the mining sector. Explain that.
You obviously need people who are going to make the correct decisions, and that can only be done if you have got the leadership that is taking the interest of the country at heart. Most of it, government have been proposing, for example, that there should be beneficiation, but it remains a song. Most of the countries who are doing very well now in mining, such as Indonesia, they are taking the law very serious. You cannot send out raw, mining products. And that is making beneficiation within the country to create jobs. But at the same time, what you are selling, you earn more foreign direct currencies. And in that way, you are able to increase both the availability of foreign currency, but also jobs within the
So what
country.
is the reluctance then of the mining sector in beneficiation, as you're saying, in refining the goods here?
Most of the mining giants have some interest in the international market. You must remember, for example, Anglo-Americans head offices, in London. So they are most likely involved also in the beneficiation, and they are benefiting with foreign currency, and they don't have to repatriate that into the country because their head office is in London anyway. So those are the kind of issues that needs to be addressed, because we need to look at the interest of the country.
All right, and we're joined on the line by Mamokgethi Molopiane. She's a labor and mining analyst, with Lawrence Mavundla, Nafcoc president, saying that there's a conflict of interest with the mining giants because they're based internationally in London, etc., that the priority is not necessarily to benefit the country. What is your view, Mamokgethi?
Good evening. One of the challenges that South Africa's mining faces is that, as the previous speaker has said, we have companies, multinational companies that are operating here. And because most of them, even though they are run by CEOs, they are answerable to the boards. If their boards have no interest in beneficiating the mining processes right up until a level where mine hosting communities benefit, there's really nothing that they can do about it. But yeah, it's the nature of business, not just in mining. Most multinationals that are answerable to the boards are always going to be look after themselves, after the margins, and after profits, and ensuring that they've put money into their company.
Mr. Mavundla, in terms of rattling the cart, as it were, do you think that there is enough political will? Is there enough in terms of the law or company law and ownership that the government can do to ensure that there is transformation and that it's expedited?
I think our government is becoming scared of the business people, because at the end of the day, it has to put its foot down and say beneficiation. Because most of the communities where mining is taking place, they are forever even blockading the entrance to those mining industries. Because if you look at the number of years that they've been existing, if they had been training those communities, the skills in the mining industry would be in abundance in the country. But they don't have that interest. Instead, they would rather import people from other countries to come and perform certain skills, which they should have trained those people in the mining areas to be able to know how to exercise those skills. At the end of the day, you then say, is government scared of those businesses? You must know, our government and the black people in general, they don't have that much influence in the mining industry or in business. And therefore, this calls for radical economic transformation in the mining industry, so that we can have people who also have the interest of the country at heart. Because without taking the interest of the country at heart, we always, at a blink of an eye, you'll have retrenchment. At a blink of an eye, you'd have, they don't look at training the local people.
Yeah. And Mamokgethi, with the mining companies, you often hear about international, global market conditions and all sorts of other jargon when it comes to why workers remain vulnerable and the least appreciated in the value chain. In this case, production is low, and you hear all sorts of things about commodity prices being under pressure. Do you think that is all just talk? In other words, deviating from the real issues?
It is the reality that the mining industry, not just in South Africa, but globally, is facing. However, when we bring it down to the context of South Africa, mining will always sadly be marred by the mark, or will bear the mark of being an industry that has thrived and done very well on exploiting workers. And I differ a bit with your guests there who say government seems to be afraid. I mean, when you look at how we are handling the mining charter, when you look at how we are handling the Mineral Resources Act, and how government has outright included beneficiation and is now saying it's no longer going to be a matter of ticking a box and filling in the requirements, but we will follow up with how it is implemented. It is saying to us that finally, perhaps at last, we are seeing a Mineral Resources Department that is now prepared to say local economic development of mining hosting community must be seen at the forefront of any mining activity that is coming from mining companies. So, of course, mining companies will always claim poverty or that they did not make profit, but they will still come and mine or continue to mine in a country. And that is why our laws and policies on mining, on community, on sustainability of the industry, on skills development in the industry must be very clear.
All right, Mr. Mavundla, so when do we see a change, tangible results in terms of closing the income gaps, number one, and ensuring that workers have the necessary skills even when the companies pack up and go?
I think, for example, one of the methods that we want to propose to government is remining of those mining stockpiles that were put by mining companies in areas where mining have closed down, because those areas are almost deserted, like Velcom and other areas. So we want to propose that this must be done so that we can begin to see income generated from those. But I think the government must put its foot down. We need to demonstrate that we are backing government, because it's important that we put our support behind the government, because transformation can no longer be an option. It must be a must, because you can't have companies just deciding as and when. That's why you see in South Africa you have a target, sometimes set up by the very same industries, and the very same industries, you find them unable to reach the same target that they have set for themselves. So the transformation of the economy and the ownership, by locals is very, very important. But none of the host communities do own the land, very few, if any. And we cannot have that. We can have, and also the development of the communities around where mining is taking place needs to be a priority.
All right, Mr. Mavundla, we're going to leave it there. Thanks indeed for your time. Great seeing you again. And that's Nafcoc President Lawrence Mavundla, and we had on the line Mamokgeti Molopiane. She is a labor and mining expert, talking about the latest developments, the production down and the mining sector by 4.4%. And that's a discussion for now.